Welcome to the F3 podcast, where we discuss all things that pertain to faith, family, and finances. We are your host today. I am Dr. Lionel M. Blair Sr., the most humble, and I'm sitting next to the glorious, the lovely, the fantastic, and everything else that's tastic that's good. The sainted mother
Oh
herself,
Lord.
Saint Jasmine the First, Dr. Jasmine Blair. And remember, y'all, don't forget, like it says at the bottom, no subject is off limits.
Listen, welcome everybody to the F3 podcast. We're excited that you're with us. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Hit the notification bell so you'll be notified every time we premiere a new episode. You can take us with you on the go. You can find the F3 podcast wherever your favorite episodes are streamed. And listen, be sure to check out the links. We've got some books there, events, and some other products and services. And you can click the link to find out how you can become an avid supporter of the F3 podcast. And you can leave us a voicemail if you have a show topic suggestion, because your topic might be the topic of the next episode. Some of y'all, well, I don't want to ask my pastor. I'm not trying to get rebuked. I'm not trying to get in trouble. Listen, ask the question. Nobody knows that you have to ask it, because no subject is off limits. So we're going to get into today's subject that is really, really interesting, and then I could take this many different directions, but I think I'm going to leave it in this direction for now. And we'll probably have to pick up on this later. We're in an age where you see a lot of people starting churches.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it's great. I think that those, especially those that are really grabbing a hold of modern day technology and really using it as a vehicle to spread the gospel, is great. But some of these people are not really, they're effective, but they're really not meant to have their own and to spearhead their own. So we're going to talk a little bit about first share leadership today. And, the idea of this really stems from the fact that some people would be more effective as a leader within a ministry, within an organization, having a department, ongoing teaching a course, or ongoing heading up evangelism or prayer or something else. We've treated people as if that's a bad thing and everybody needs to go start their own ministry.
Right.
And the truth of the matter is, a lot of ministries are lacking because you have people like that want to go and do their own, and that's great. But is that really the assigned place for you? So I'm gonna pass this over to you, and then we're gonna talk about some keys and some times to really identify.
Yeah. Yeah. When it comes to a first chair leader, first of all, the grace is going to be there. I always tell people this: leadership is a grace. All right. And for many of you, it's not the fact that you're not called to be a leader. It's just that you want to lead in the capacity that you choose for yourself.
That part.
All right. Because a lot of people want the pride of saying that they have their own. And then a lot of times you believe something long enough, then you have convinced yourself that God agrees with you.
Mm-mm.
And then next thing you know, you're coming up with a vision for your own ministry. Well, riddle me this, Batman. If you are a first chair leader, how come no one follows you?
Mm.
Or only a few follow you? And some may say, where Jesus, all Jesus had was 12. Yeah, but see, Jesus had 12 that he chose. Okay. But guess what? He had a whole multitude wanting to follow him everywhere he went.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? If 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 there's no one that wants to follow you outside of your preferred choice of a disciple or clique, you may not be a first chair leader.
Mm.
Because see, first chair leadership is the one who God gives the vision to, the mandate to, and the one that God uses to initiate his execution. And guess what? When you're called to be a first chair leader, God is going to always staff your vision.
Mm.
Okay, let me say that again. Your vision is going to be staffed. If you're a pastor, you're trying to get your church off the ground, and you struggling to get your church off the ground, you need to examine the fact that you really called to start that. And I'm not just talking about gathering around a personality. All right, I'm talking about literally a grace. Because I'm seeing a lot of these young guys want to start ministries, and I say young guys because is predominantly you all people in our age bracket, millennials. And I'm not saying God's not raising up millennial leaders because He's raising up a lot of them. He's raising up millennial fathers and mothers. I believe that, but there's a lot of us out here,
Mm-hmm.
okay, who are assuming roles and positions that God didn't give us, and it's evident God didn't give it to us. But
That part.
we are told, oh, just be faithful to the vision, baby. God
Mm-mm.
will eventually turn it around, and then you find yourself not still having the supply and the support,
Mm-hmm.
and if by some inch of a miracle you do get it, you gotta hustle and manipulate people to get it.
Mm-hmm.
That goes to show you're not a first chair leader.
Uh-oh.
First of all, what is a first chair leader? A leader that's in front, the main leader. Okay, examples of a first chair leader. It could be your presiding bishop. Okay, the one that's over the whole organization, or your chief apostle, right? The one who's over the whole thing. That's a first chair leader.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Also, whoever's the senior leader of the ministry, that's a first chair leadership position. And a lot of y'all would say apostles should automatically be first chair leaders. Well, apostle is a first chair office, but not all apostles are first chair apostles. Okay.
Mm.
Okay. Now let me help some of you apostles out, because see, the apostles worked in teams in the Bible. You didn't see one apostle independently from another in the Bible. Okay. So with that being said, every apostle is not first chair. Somebody got to be number one.
That's it.
See, when Jesus gave Peter the keys of the kingdom, that made him the number one apostle among his brothers. He was he was the first chair apostle when the 12 gathered.
Mm.
All right. Now, when it came to the Jerusalem Council, okay, James was the first chair apostle.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Listen, the point I'm making is this: leadership is a grace. And a lot of us, we've been taught, first of all, a lot of y'all who call to be pastors, y'all think y'all first chair leaders.
Mm.
First of all, there's no example of a pastor over a church in the Bible. No, no, no. Pastoral leadership is to work under apostolic leadership. Okay. To to sustain what apostleship has established. That's real pastoral leadership. But because over the centuries and over long periods of time, over history, okay, we've made the bishop and the pastor to be the dominant positions in the church. Okay, sometimes you need to examine tradition to see if it's right. See, a lot of y'all just go by tradition. Well, this is what the fathers established, what the fathers did, and I respect the church fathers. It gives you a real clue and a real view on Christianity back then, how devoted they were.
Right.
But guess what? All the fathers won't right either. Even some of the fathers started bumping heads on stuff. All right. So 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 what am I saying? It may be tradition, but is it right?
That part.
You know, and some of y'all prophets who are running from. Okay, I hear the Lord. Some of y'all prophets are running from first chair positions too, because in the Bible, prophets had the power to oversee a ministry too.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, the church at Antioch was ran by prophets and teachers, one no apostle in sight.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah, but see, it gives you a lot of y'all like where you at because it gives you an excuse to be mean, give you an
Uh-oh.
excuse to be standoffish, and give you an excuse to all that. No, 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 no. A lot of you are called to be first cheerleaders, but you're running from it. But there's a vast majority of people out there, okay, who are trying to be first cheerleaders and they don't have it. Some of y'all need to humble yourself to the pastor, the apostle, the bishop up the street. Okay. Say, hey, I'm not really called to this. It's not producing fruit. Can I work under you? Can I bring me in my congregation over there by you? Can I work with you? You know, and anybody honorable, if they don't have a position for you, they'll create one. Okay. I remember at your old church, the pastor there had other pastors that let go of their churches and came under that pastor. Because you got to recognize if you are a first cheerleader or not. If you're not a first cheerleader, listen, it's okay. It's okay not to be the first cheerleader. You may be a better number 2 than you are number 1.
That part.
You know, every group, we see this even in the secular world. Every group, and I'm gonna go secular for a moment because this is a divine principle, whether you like it or not. Every group has a lead singer or a lead rapper or a leader of the group, right? That's the first cheerleader. They're the ones that have the grace to be out front. Let somebody else be out front all the time like that and see what's gonna happen.
And proof of that is when the group do split up. You see the lead singer ends up having a successful career, and the other ones that try to go do something that just flop. And they're like, "What? Who is this?"
Look at Jay-Z and Rockefeller. What Jay-Z at right now? Jay-Z a billionaire. Huh? You don't even hear from a lot of them other guys.
That's true.
You don't. You understand what I'm saying? Look at Bad Boy and P. Diddy. You know, look at Nelly and the Saint Lunatics. Come on, look at 50 Cent G Unit. Look at B2K. you know, Omarion and all them in B2K. You understand? Well, I'm giving examples because this principle works in the kingdom as well as the world. Everybody's not a first chair leader. And like you said, you can tell when someone's not a first chair leader. Because when they break away from the main leader shines even brighter, actually. Even brighter. Talking principle. Trying to speak in a language that many of y'all understand. All right. So it's okay not to be a first chair leader. I hate to keep sounding like a broken record, but it's okay not to be a first chair leader. I want you to point to yourself and say, it's okay not to be a first chair leader. It's okay. I don't always need to have my own ministry. Maybe I need to come under my leader's ministry and really, okay. Huh? Yeah. Some of y'all need to drop your vision and embrace your leader's vision. Not everybody, but some of y'all do. Some of y'all do because some of y'all are in these positions and you're struggling for no reason. You're wasting resources, putting money into that. Putting money in that. You need to take your skills and present it to your leader and say, hey, this is what I can do. How can I incorporate this into what you're doing? Some of you need to go to your pastors or whoever you sit under and offer your gifting. All right? Because you ain't called to be a first chair leader. Even if God has given you a vision for a ministry, that ministry may need to fall under your leader's vision. Sometimes you got to relinquish your own, even if it's for a season, to rediscover who you're really called to be. There's a lot of failed pastors out here. And then there are first chair leaders who are suffering. You want to know why they're suffering? Because they got people like some of y'all who want to have your own so bad that you're willing to be small and still have your own. when God will blow you up even bigger if you submit what you got to your leader. There was this apostle that I'm familiar with, right? Um, he's under a Bishop Todd Hall, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this man has his own churches, right? He had his own network of churches and everything like that. You want to know what this man did? What most pastors wouldn't do? He submitted his fellowship to his leader.
Mm.
He submitted, so he went from being a presiding bishop to, I guess, like a prelate or something that was appointed, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was appointed over jurisdiction, and a lot of people viewed it, and he addressed it publicly. He said a lot of y'all viewing what I did as a promotion, but you want to know what my spiritual father did? He gave me all my churches back under just under the that a division within his fellowship.
Mm-hmm.
So really, God tested this man's humility, and as a result, I mean, from my understanding, this church exploded in growth.
Mm. Mm.
Some of you will never be fulfilled the way that you are supposed to be
That's
in leadership, doing what God called you to do until you humble yourself in a certain way. And it looks different for everybody.
Right,
Like for this man of God, he had to take his fellowship and humble himself under his leader. For you, it may be taking this little vision that you got that ain't working for you, scrapping it, becoming a clean slate, and submitting your skills and your vision before your leader.
Mm-hmm.
For some of you, even in business, okay, what if I'm selling cupcakes and I'm close to you and you're selling cupcakes, okay, why would I keep selling cupcakes and use all of my resources when we can put our resources together?
Exactly.
The Bible says two is better than one. That's a principle there.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of y'all are broke too because you have friends you don't want to work under.
Mm.
Because see, now you my friend, but when it comes to certain things, I gotta listen to you.
Mm.
See, a lot of people don't want to listen to those they view themselves equal as.
Mm.
But it could save your business. It could save your livelihood. It could save your career. It can save your giftings. It's too much pride there. We're wasting kingdom resources on our pride. A lot of y'all just want the status, but you're not fulfilling the role of the status. So you have a genuine first chair leader who suffers because of people like that.
Mm. One of the things you said that I think kind of sums this up is when you mentioned something about the visionary. That to me is a telltale sign between whether or not somebody is a first chair leader or not.
Right.
And a lot of people mistake having an idea with having a vision.
Thank you.
They're not the same. Everybody's not a visionary. You can be a leader. Doesn't mean you're not a leader, but it's a visionary leader that primarily is a first chair.
That's right.
And a lot of times people come along, well, I feel like we should be doing it. Okay, that's an idea to the vision. That's not a vision.
Come on.
So just because you have an idea that could support or propel the vision doesn't mean you're getting insight from God to go start your own thing. Because once you accomplish that, then what?
That's a whole lesson.
It's stagnated.
Yeah.
There's no growth. There's no development. There's no further modules. Okay, so we did part 1. This was your idea. What's part 2, part 3, part 4? If we take your idea, watch this, and lay this out in a 5, 7, 10, 15-year plan, your idea don't go that far. That's how we know that's how you know that you're not meant to be a first chair leader. If you can't really see the growth, development, and the advancement of your idea beyond 7 to 10 years, it's not a vision.
Come on.
It's an idea. And for some of you, that's some strong tea, that's some strong black coffee, but you're going to be all right. So here's what you have to do. Go before God and figure out, okay, God, I got this idea. Where is a vision that I can connect this idea and to help propel it forward?
Yeah.
One of the reasons to help you know that you're in the right place or you're discovering the right place is your idea already going to be in the 15-20 year plan of the vision. It's going to fit somewhere.
Right. Right.
It's going to fit somewhere.
Right. I love what you said though. There's a difference between a vision and an idea.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people don't know how to identify that. Yeah, that's a teaching.
Yeah, it is. And
That's
a
a
lot of
teaching.
people are too prideful
Yeah.
to admit that.
Yeah, for real.
I remember one time I was talking to somebody, this was several years ago, and they were saying that, they felt like they had, they wanted to start a class on something. They said it felt like they had mastered it and they had so much to pour into other people. I said, okay. I said, well, let me ask you this. If I set up a seminar and I give you 8 hours to talk, then what would you talk about for 8 hours?
Mm.
That's how you know.
Right.
Oh, I don't really know. Okay, well then you have not mastered that. That means you have an idea, but it's not developed enough to be a vision, and that's how you know you're not supposed to be a first cheerleader.
Right.
There's something that burns in you that you have such a passion. You could talk about it for hours and hours and hours. You can teach people on it without notes, without books. It's something you can literally pour from your spirit and ignite the fire inside of other people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not talking about your testimony. I'm talking about something sovereign that God has given you. Because another mistake we make is we take our testimony and then we try to make that a vision and make that into our whole ministry. And then we become the first chair that is, what's the word I'm looking for? We become a sounding board or a safe haven for people who had a similar or same testimony. And anybody outside of that, it's hard for us to actually genuinely connect to and minister to.
Right.
I believe it's beautiful when people have a testimony and they're not ashamed to tell where God has brought them from. I think that kind of healthy professional transparency is needed in the body. But I do not think that everybody's ministry is supposed to be their testimony.
No.
If you used to be homeless, that don't mean your whole ministry is supposed to be to the homeless. That don't mean your whole ministry is providing resources to the home. Now, those are great blessing things, but that doesn't mean that's your whole ministry.
Right.
Because essentially that can be a department in a larger vision.
For real.
When people take their testimony, their gift or idea or make it their ministry, they have misappropriated their understanding of their own assignment and destiny. And that comes from not being seated somewhere where you can be processed to have somebody or somebody's a presbytery more seasoned than you to help you unearth the true trajectory of the destiny God has on your life. Yeah. Your gift will make room for you. Your gift is not the vision for you.
Come on now. Come on now.
But see, when we're offended or immature, we like to take our gift, like I said, our gift, our testimony, our idea, and we make it our whole ministry. And that's going to have its 15 minutes of fame, and then it's going to flop. Why? Because it never was a vision that was meant to be sustained for generations to come.
See, one thing. Are you finished, by the way?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
That's good.
Okay. Yeah,
I got to reflect on that myself.
Yeah, for real. One thing about first chair leaders is this. You said they're visionaries, right?
Mm-hmm.
But within them being visionaries, they're able to relate to a multitude of peoples and cultures. Just like Paul said, "But I become all things to all men." So if you just have a women's ministry,
mm-hmm.
you're not a first cheerleader. If you just have a men's ministry, you're not a first cheerleader. If you just have a prison ministry,
if you just have a homeless
ministry, you just have a homeless ministry, even though these things are good individually.
If you just have a prophetic ministry,
right?
If you just have apostolic ministry, if you just have an evangelistic winning souls type of ministry,
right?
If you only have a missions ministry,
right? You are not a first chair leader, and your whatever you have need to be working under someone else to be an extension of their grace, because first chair leaders have a grace to enhance you, okay, and to increase you as you plug into what they have going on.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why, if you are not a first cheerleader, you need to have a sit down with your spiritual leaders, your overseers, or whoever they are, and you need to have a real conversation about their vision.
Yeah.
And then you need to seek God about how it ties into yours, and you need to be an extension of that work.
That's good.
That's why I'm not a fan of all these people with their own names in ministry.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can have it, but there's somewhere needs to be stated that you who you're an extension from,
Yeah.
because somebody need to be able to trace that.
That whole name and work might need to be an annual conference, not a whole ministry.
We make ministries out of we make ministries out of assignments, and assignments will end.
Mm-hmm.
How when you're no longer in that kingdom prophetic assignment, kingdom prophetic ministries. I'm just giving a name, kingdom prophetic ministry. Well, what happens when that assignment
KPM.
And I think this is why too a lot of people be having 3 and 4 and 5 name changes for their churches, because they name. But see, you should have a first cheerleader to tell you that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, oh, I feel the need to change my name. Well, maybe you're not a. Yeah. So be humble enough to recognize where you are, because see, you'll be greater being a second cheerleader or third cheerleader.
That's it.
Listen, I miss my second cheerleadership days. I do. I really do, because I was kind of in charge without being in charge.
Mm-hmm.
I was in charge without being fully in charge. I could enforce my leader's words and my leader's standards, you know. But if things went haywire in the ministry, it all didn't reflect back on me. I miss my second chair days. I'm just saying, you know. But but we're trying to help some of y'all, because and even some of you apostles, and let me say this to my fellow apostles: every apostle in Scripture was not a first chair apostle. At the council in Jerusalem, everybody want first chair.
That's it.
Everybody ain't chief. Okay, you can be chief in your own sphere, but you're not chief overall.
That
Okay,
part.
and that's okay. All right, it's okay to work under another apostle. It's okay. I'm finding that a lot of bishops and a lot of apostles, they're closing down their ministries. Okay, and they're working. You know, this one bishop I saw recently. He closed down his local church, and now he works closely under his presiding bishop. He works closely up under him now. You see what I'm saying? Some of y'all need to re-examine where you are. If you're trying to start a church, you're trying to start a personal ministry, you know, like you know, Lionel M. Blair Senior Ministries. You know, I'm just giving an example. You need to examine all that. Is this a first chair ministry? If not, it's okay. Work your ministry, but work closely under the one. Okay. And if they have any constructive ideas on things you need to change, I think you need to consider that. But see, we don't want to give up the little bit of independence we got, because we don't want to be controlled or restricted. But it's not about being controlled or restricted. If you have a leader, if you have a real covering, they will understand where you are. Okay, and you know, I don't believe in shutting people totally down or anything like that. Some of you just need to just revamp and regroup. It's okay to start over. And listen, it's okay for you not to be a first chair leader. It's okay that you don't have your own and everything. It's okay. I want you to point to yourself and say, it's okay. It's okay that I have a pastoral call, but I may not be the senior pastor of my own church. I may work under my leader closely. Or if my leader plant me in the church, recognizing that it's my leader's church that they cover it. It's okay. Some of you, you stress yourself out. You want to know why you stress yourself out? You stress yourself out because you want to be the head of everything. You want to be the head of everything. And some of you don't even have control over your own lives. But even for those who do have things together in their life, that still don't make you a first cheerleader.
Exactly.
There are levels of leadership. Just because you call the leadership don't mean you call to have your own. That's what we got to kill in the church and
What
in
I want to
society.
know is why we've gotten to a place where we're not satisfied with leadership unless we're the first in charge.
Jesus Christ.
Truthfully, I mean, if you want to be truthful, the larger the organization, the more influence you have over people's lives in the culture of the ministry as a second or third cheerleader than you do as the first cheerleader.
Yeah.
Let's pick, one of these televangelist preachers, somebody who's got a large ministry, thousands of people. They've got maybe 10, 20, 30, I'm just picking a number, pastors in place that are doing the counseling and the meetings and the
Yeah.
marriage counseling and whatever. Somebody that like TD Jakes, for example, very
Yeah.
large, very prominent.
You
Everybody
gonna
knows
get no
who
meeting with
TD
him.
Jakes is.
Right.
You've got more authority as a second cheerleader and more say in how people feel about the church, what people's experience is, their takeaway from the counseling, their takeaway from the greeting, their takeaway from the connection if they're grieving or they have a lost a loved one. Those people have more of an influence in that than he himself.
Right.
So where did we grab this idea? I'm not influential unless I'm the top person in charge. Right. You actually have more influence. And if we want to be honest, more people have left churches or joined churches because of those that are within a leadership team than they have because of an actual senior leader.
Right.
In many cases. I'm not talking about the grand stuff we hear on social media.
Right.
I'm talking about realistic, typical, everyday examples. That's something that we have to consider.
Right.
I'm sorry. More church splits are caused by those people. So don't tell me you don't have influence.
Right. It's like Lucifer in heaven. He wasn't satisfied with being the third cheerleader or whatever after the Godhead or whatever. He won't satisfy because if you read the Bible, you study Lucifer, you see that he was very influential in heaven. Very influential. But see, he had his own department. He had his own realm that he was prince over. But he was not high king over all. And he wanted to be, a lot of y'all teach that he tried to overthrow God, but that's not what the Bible specifically says. He says, I will be like the Most High. He tried to equalize himself, okay, which is just as wicked. He tried to equalize himself with God because he wanted the same honor that God had. You understand what I'm saying? So he wasn't satisfied with being in the position that he was in. And see, a lot of you what ends up happening is that you end up being disinherited altogether.
That part.
Because you're trying to be more than what God has called you to be. But somehow somehow some voice in your head that convinced you that you are supposed to be more than what you are. Not even realizing the privilege that you do have. And Lucifer ended up losing everything. He ended up losing everything. And I'm not going to go too deep on Lucifer because that's a whole different teaching by itself. I got a couple deep teachings about him.
Yeah, that's for a different platform.
Yeah, that's for a different platform because y'all gonna pay me for that revelation. Nah, but for real, listen, we got to become satisfied and okay with where we are. God the Father, listen, if you study God the Father, he put everything in place, okay, and he's in charge, but he's not running everything. First of all, he turned his judgments over to Jesus, number one, because Jesus specifically said, the Father judgeth no man. It is the Son that judgeth now. Okay, it's in your Bible, it's there. So when y'all talking about we about to meet the wrath of God of the Old Testament, that's false. That's false because Jesus said opposite. What do you think the angels are doing? Sitting there twiddling their thumbs. The Bible says there's an innumerable company of angels. Okay, they're the ones that's helping to govern things in the cosmos and make sure everything is in its proper order. Make sure a black hole don't swallow our entire universe. Okay, I mean our galaxy. Excuse me. You understand? So he's seated on the throne, watching everything that he created work according to his original design. So really, those of y'all who are second chair and third chair leaders, y'all the ones that's running everything. I don't get it for people who want so much power. You get to me, you get more power in the second and third chair and other positions running stuff than you would just sitting there being in charge. No, I just want the status of the first cheerleader. I want people to come and celebrate me. And that's why I think we have all these ordinations and all these new ordinations
I
and
swear some of these
consecrations
pastors got 2 birthdays a year.
and
And
for
now they be
real.
celebrating the natural birthday, the spiritual birthday. You get the honor and the celebration, but you also get the blame for stuff too.
You sure
When them
do.
second, third, and fourth cheerleaders mess some stuff up, you get blamed.
You get blamed. Okay, you get looked at. All right. So this is what I'm saying. Like y'all think it's all glitz and glamour and stuff, and I can tell you from a first cheerleader's position, you don't want this if you ain't called to it. If you ain't called to it, you don't want this. Okay, this is. I love what I do, but it's stressful.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm trying to thicken my hair right here, right now. Okay, I love what I do, but it's stressful. It's stressful. Okay, you got to trust God and go before God all the time about this stuff here. Okay, if you ain't called to this, you don't want this. This will break you.
Any closing remarks you got?
Humble yourself. And if you are called to a first chair leadership, get the proper training. Take the time to invest in the people assigned to you to make sure that they're competent for the assignment that's ahead. Okay. If you're called to be a first cheerleader, but a lot of y'all are not either. All right. So if you recognize that your ministry in a stuck place and all the other stuff, check and see if you're a first cheerleader. And if God tell you, hey, you need to surrender some parts of your ministry, or you need to revamp this or change this or whatever, you need to humble yourself in this area, just obey his instructions. Mm-hmm. You'll be a lot better off.
Listen, I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the F3 Podcast. Tell us in the comments what you think. Are you in this transition, realizing that first chair leadership is not for you? Or are you on the other end? Maybe you've been selling yourself short and God is trying to bring you up to a different place. Let us know what you think. Connect with us in the comments. Find out how you can support the podcast. Follow us over on IG at King and Queen Blair. Until next time on the F3 Podcast. Goodbye.
Goodbye.